What's up? What's up? I got Tom Ross TV Raw, and I got Richy Rich. You know, probably a Richie of a rich in the building. So what's good with you guys, man? How y'all doing today?
What's good, man? You know what it is? Sunday football.
Yeah, what's good to
Exactly.
you all?
Yeah,
So,
man. So right off the bat, I love Tom Brady, man, but that was not that was not roughing the passer, man. That was not roughing the passer. Basically, you can't tackle the motherfucker. He the Buccaneers they were in a one possession game, and they sacked Tom Brady. It's a regular tackle, and they call roughing the passer. I mean, now if they're gonna get that soft, they have to translate that with every quarterback. You know what I'm saying? There has to be some parity. One group of quarterbacks can't be getting hit late, helmet to helmet, and nobody says nothing. And then another group of quarterbacks can't get tackled without getting roughing the passer. You know what I mean?
So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
what groups of quarterbacks are you talking about?
Oh, definitely black quarterbacks and definitely mobile quarterbacks get hit willy nilly at any point. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm saying is there has to be some type of parity in the sport at the QB position. They can't pick and choose when they're going to protect the QB and when they're not. You know what I'm saying?
What's your take
Exactly.
on that? What's your take on that, Rich?
I totally agree with Tom Ross, man. That call right there was just, I mean, Atlanta, they got screwed out of a chance to have an opportunity of winning the game, all because they bailed out Tom Brady. He's the GOAT, but that call just didn't make any sense. The defender was not trying to tackle him with intent of slamming him to the ground. He just tackled him. Brady's a big quarterback. He's 6'4", 225. If you
Yeah.
don't bring that man down, he's gonna break free and he's gonna get those yards. So you have to make sure you tackle him. You get him to the ground. Uh, what's his name got tackled on the Dolphins today and was knocked out for the rest of the game. Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy
They didn't.
Bridgewater.
The referees didn't call no roughing the passer. In the Seahawks Saints game, one of their receivers was slammed on his head and neck. O'Clave. They had to take this man out of the game. There was no personal foul. There was no roughing the player type call. No penalty
Right.
call. Nothing.
Unnecessary roughness.
Yeah, unnecessary roughness. There was none of that called for any of those players, and those guys were tackled a whole lot more violently than how that dude tackled Brady. So it didn't make sense to me. It seemed like they just bailed out Brady. They're not trying to let Brady go out like that.
Right. And that's the thing. Um, my thing is it has to be parity because now what you're having, you're having a more socially. I think you could kind of tip the hat to people like us on social media who has drawn attention to this. But there's a more socially politically aware observer of football that that notices these things now. You know what I'm saying? And they're watering down the football brand when they just do that. You know what I'm saying? Because now people are saying, "Oh, is this shit really real?" Because it seems rigged. All right. In one case, on one hand, let's take the Buffalo Bills versus the Ravens last game. They were letting them boys play. They were letting them boys just play. They weren't calling shit up until the Ravens were finna get ready to go up 21-3. Once the Ravens were finna get ready to go up three possessions, they literally started calling everything against the Ravens. So in these cases, they have to have parity. You know what I'm saying? Because if they don't, it's gonna be obvious that they're for or against certain teams and certain players.
This year has been a wash for Brady. I feel like this year he's just kind of going through the season because he knows he's going to have a cushy position with Fox. I don't know if you guys heard about his contract with Fox, but
Yeah.
they're talking
What
about
was
paying
name?
this guy $375 million. Man,
Okay.
that's unheard of for a guy that's sitting behind a desk covering football games. So after his whole quarterback career, he's going to actually make more money than he did in his NFL career, sitting behind a desk just talking. So I feel like they're just allowing him to have this swan song year where he's just going through the motions. Honestly, I didn't want him to come back because there's a thing of a quarterback leaving on a high note. He left off of a Super Bowl.
Right.
So when you leave off of a Super Bowl win, it's like the way Jordan left in 98. It's like the way John Elway left with the Denver Broncos. You always want to leave on that high note if you have the opportunity to leave. Some
Mm-hmm.
guys don't know when to call it. And Brady just happens to be of that mold, those Michael Jordan molds where he just doesn't know when to call it. And you could tell it has been a recession in his game. This whole thing of, he's aging like fine wine. This whole thing of he's aging like vino. You guys know I'm the biggest Tom Brady fan, and you guys know when it comes to someone that I root for, if their levels drop, I'm gonna be the first one to say it.
Right.
That level drop, it's not there no more. I don't see picking defenses apart. I don't see him being a 2-minute offensive surgery. I don't see the juvenile surgery on bodies like, hey, doctor. I don't see none of that. That's
Right.
what I know Tom Brady to be, the guy to carve your defense and to carve it 2 minutes at a time. None of that is happening this year. As a matter of fact, he's getting the benefit of the doubt from the referee. So really segueing this should segue into Lamar Jackson and him arguably being the best quarterback, because this guy right here is not only doing it passing the ball, he's doing it rushing the ball. This guy is not only your best quarterback, but he's also your best rusher in the league at the same time. It's insane what this guy's doing on the football field. And honestly, instead of them making a swan song for Tom Brady, they need to be looking at Lamar Jackson and give him his props. And then we look even further on what is the hidden agenda. What is the issue with Baltimore Ravens that they can't pay this guy what he's deserving of? Because you have Russell Wilsons of the world. These guys are of lesser stock, lesser degree. They've gotten their $200 million something extension. I mean, he went from Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos. He hasn't been the same quarterback since he's been with the Denver Broncos. As a matter of fact, there's an argument that you could say he's lost levels and he's lost gears being on the Denver Broncos as opposed to what we've accustomed to with the Seattle Seahawks. So how come he gets a $200+ million extension, but Lamar Jackson has to wait in the weeds? Is it because Lamar Jackson has braids? Is it because he represents what looks like ghetto? Is it because he represents what looks like he's from the hood? Is it because he looks like he represents pork and beans? Does he look like he's from the hood of Dade County, the hood of Broward County, the hood of West Palm Beach County? Richy Rich, you know what I'm talking about. Does he represent that mode? Does he look like that? Because that's what they're giving him. They try to treat him like a straight jet, and I'm tired of it, man. Because this guy right here is a guy that I want to see don the Dolphins, uniform. That's why you guys see my profile. Him, I would love to see him and Mike McMillan or Mike McDaniel team back up again. I would love to see that. So y'all tell me what y'all take on this, since we kind of segued into Lamar Jackson, because quintessentially he's the best player in the game right now, and to me it's not even close.
The problem with Lamar is they don't, even though he's from those places, he's not. They don't have that nigga story on Lamar. Like, and it's sad because for them to give a black man a deal, they got to have like that nigga story. What I mean by that nigga story was they wasn't even fucking with Deshaun Watson until Deshaun Watson caught all them cases fucking with the white girls, right? And then so now it's kind of like, yeah, we could give you a deal now because at the end of the day we can say, oh, you ain't shit but a rapist. You know what I'm saying? What's the name? Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray proved to be very selfish and don't really give a fuck about his team. Okay, we can give you a deal now because you was a selfish black nigga like the rest of them. But when it comes to Lamar Jackson, what can you say about Lamar Jackson besides he worked hard and he just want to win? And you know what I'm saying? Like, as far as what he actually does, there's no nigga story. So they waiting on that. Like, they needed Lamar Jackson to get a DUI, or they need him to have some type of fucked up thing that they could point back and say, oh, you just like the rest of them. You know what I'm saying?
Because he's not a distraction. He's not a distraction. They thought he was going to be a distraction because of the contract extension. and he's balling out
Yep. And that's the
even
thing.
in losses. This is crazy.
And they wanted him to do that because had he done that, then they could always say, "Oh yeah, at the end of the day, he don't really care about the sport. He just care about the money. He just blase, blase, blase." But since he's not doing it, it's kind of like they punishing him low key for not being the typical nigga. Because think about it, outside of how he dresses how he was raised, but his actions is nothing like anybody that's typical. You know what I'm saying? He
So
puts
Richie,
hard work, expertise. He puts he's self account. He holds himself accountable. The way he carries himself is nothing like the typical nigga. He just talks and he just acts that way because he ain't trying to put on for nobody. But he don't have that. He don't have that shit they can really hold in his face. And they're waiting on that. Really, if you ask me, this political. But this ain't just the Ravens though. This is just how the NFL works. When you think about it, what straight lace black nigga get a deal if they acquiesce to white society. If they straight laced, they gotta talk like what? They gotta sound pretty much like a white man. They gotta move like a white man. They gotta have, you know what I mean? White ideologies. But
you
when you
mean sound
straight,
like Randall Cunningham?
yeah. But when you straight laced, but you still remain true to who you are, it's kind of like they don't really want to give that type of nigga no money because they know he ain't gonna do shit, but go straight to the area where he's from and try to rebuild it.
You're right. Because Warren Moon has a similar career like a Doug Flutie, or as a matter of fact, Warren Moon, you can make an argument that his career is better than the Doug Fluties of the world. But he
Right.
doesn't get the same attention. He doesn't get the same limelight. And I felt like he did everything and he made sure that he played the cards the right way. But Richie Rich, I want your take on Lamar Jackson because we've been going back and forth between me and you and Tua. And now Tua got the back injury. Does Lamar Jackson look even more attractive to you going to Miami? Do you think the Dolphins are gonna, lose the Dolphins curse and finally decide to pick someone, especially someone that's homegrown? Or do you feel Lamar Jackson is gonna go to somewhere else? Or are you just low key wanting him to go to your San Francisco 49ers? Let me know what you think.
Well, man, I mean, you guys brought up some valid points about the topics you guys were discussing before, but getting on this topic, I mean, how is Lamar going to be able to get away from the Ravens though? Because I already know they're going to franchise tag him after the season. If the deal doesn't get done,
Right.
they're going to franchise tag this dude. It's going to get to a point where he's going to have to hold out. That's the only way he's going to be able to get away from this team, and he's going to have to lose out on some dollars, but he's going to be able to finally be able to get himself free. He don't show up to camp, they're going to find him. But I already know how they're going to try to play it out, because right now he's playing on a team with a bad defense, man, and he has to bail this team out a lot. He has to put on the Superman cape a lot to bail this team out. The defense is horrendous. They go up, but yet the defense, they're giving up leads like nothing.
Like nothing.
Like nothing. So he has to always have on his cape, and that's terrible. And he doesn't even have many weapons on that team. They've never given him a number one receiver. He has Dobbs. Dobbs is a decent, solid running back, but he's coming back off a serious injury, so he's going to need time to get back to where he was. But he doesn't have a lot of weapons on that team.
So do you think low key they try to injure him, Richie? That low key they're trying to not giving him what he needs. They're trying to get him injured so that they can justify him not getting that contract extension or that new contract.
It could be that's what they're trying to do strategically. Because if he gets hurt, then they could be like, see, you didn't play the whole season, so you didn't really get the numbers we wanted you to get. You didn't really put out the output that we really wanted you to get. So you can't really get the contract that you're asking for. Like last season, he got hurt. He missed the majority of the games. But it really showed his value. They didn't make the postseason. So if Lamar is not out there, they're definitely not making a postseason.
Right.
He's there this year. They have a great shot at getting the postseason. They play a big game tonight. They play the Bengals. They're the favorites, but that team around them is not good. What I fear for Lamar is they're gonna be like, we got to spread the money around. You see, the defense ain't that good. We got to make sure we get some players on that defense. So you want this amount of money guaranteed, but I honestly, man, you got to try to give up some of that money so we could try to make sure the defense right for you. So will you take this amount? They're gonna try to shortchange him, man.
Yeah, man. If I'm Lamar Jackson, because I think they could franchise him twice. I'll allow it. You can franchise me once because he already got insurance on his body. So if you get hurt, you're gonna get paid. You can franchise me once. That's gonna be like 40 something million. The second franchise is gonna be 50 million. This is all guaranteed money. After that, I don't sign with you, and I go ahead and declare for free agency. And here's why: they disrespected Lamar Jackson, bro, and they're trying to get him for cheap. They hope they this is the reason why they're not giving him no weapons because they don't want his numbers to go up to where they gotta pay him. Because what they do is they don't pay quarterbacks on their actual worth. They pay quarterbacks set on standards that they created, right? Like there's milestones, 4,000 yards passing, 5,000 yards passing, blase. That's the reason why they didn't pay him on the MVP. They really wanted to take care of Lamar Jackson. They would have paid him after 2019 season when he led the league in passer rating and when he led the league in touchdowns. But they didn't pay him because they wanted the next season to see if he could do it again. And if we don't, then they can say, "See, you had a decline. You're declining." So if I was him, after these 2 years, no matter what happens, I would lead this team because this team does not give a fuck about him at all. You can tell how the way they carry their plays, all because you have why they call their plays, all because you have a athletic quarterback. That don't mean you use him like that. You allow him to pick and choose when he's going to use his athleticism. You don't just run him like that. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to call plays where there's a play run option. That's another thing to consistently run this dude up the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Why are
And
you
I
doing
think,
that?
and I think, and I think you guys made great points with Lamar Jackson because I think Tom Ross hit it on the bingo when he said 2 years. That's smart because then he puts himself in the driver's seat where he doesn't miss any playing time. He turns around and he declares free agency, and then he could get the last laugh after getting the 90 million from them. But I wanted to switch
Right.
gears a little bit because it's clear Lamar Jackson is doing everything he's supposed to. Let's talk about a black quarterback that's not doing everything he's supposed to. Because I want to rewind a little bit. I want both of you guys to take on Russell Wilson. Do
Mm.
you guys think eventually that Russell Wilson gets cut, or do they find a way to stymie him in a sense of they kind of give him basically the backdoor double standards policy? Because the reason why I'm asking this is because he has regressed a lot, and I feel like if he was that unapologetic quarterback or that type of quarterback that they don't like, he wouldn't have gotten as much leeway like he's gotten with the Denver Broncos. So, what is both of you guys' take on Russell Wilson? Do you guys feel like with him not playing the way that he's supposed to be playing, with him clearly showing that he's aged overnight, how do you guys feel for him as a quarterback?
Right now, I think he's safe because who they're gonna replace him with. Um, and here's another thing. While Russell Wilson can stand to play better, and I think he's in his mind. I think he's just in his head and not letting loose because he's so worried about making mistakes that he's making mistakes because he's worried about how much they paid him. Like, bro, you earned that money. Go ahead and ball out. But the problem is, no matter who they get at quarterback, that team ain't gonna win. That team got a brand new defensive coordinator, a brand new offensive coordinator, and a brand new head coach, and it shows they fucking suck at calling the game, man. They can't manage the clock to save their life. Truth be told, they will need a quarterback whose game is less physical and more like Peyton Manning wasn't really a. When you look at Peyton Manning throw the ball, he didn't even throw tight spirals. He got the ball there, so he wasn't really that great of a specimen at quarterback, but he was more of a coach. Peyton Manning was more of a coach on the field. You know what I'm saying? Like he knew when it, like Peyton Manning could he could come off the field and be an offensive coordinator or be a coach. That's how much he understands the game. If they don't have no quarterback like that, this coaching team, this coaching staff, they're gonna always lose games because they don't know how to manage players. They don't know how to manage time. Two of those games they should have won. It was on the coaches. Like, damn, dude, you don't know when to call a timeout. You know what I'm saying? Like they squander. Like in the last 2 minutes, you can't squander no time. None. You can't squander no time. 30 seconds is enough to run 3 or 4 plays, quick plays. How the fuck you only run one play? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody on the coaching staff was just at a loss. They didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? So while Russell Wilson's not playing his best football, he's not the reason why they're losing. That team is until they get their head out their ass and that coaching staff learns basic time management, they're gonna always be in these constraints, always be in these dire straits.
What's your take on it, Richie Rich?
I totally agree with Tom Ross, man. Tom Ross, he broke it down uh, to the T because that really, the way you got to look at it is Russell Wilson, man, he's coming off a year that, where he sustained a serious injury. I think he fractured one of the fingers in his throwing hand. Then he had to come back. That was his last year in Seattle, last season. He came back and he looked like he was off, and then the move was made to go to the Denver Broncos, but he didn't really have a preseason. He didn't play any preseason games with these guys. So his timing is off. And like Tom Ross pointed out, it's a whole new coaching staff. That stuff takes time. And like he mentioned before, the only quarterback I see, being able to deal with those issues is a Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's a very cerebral quarterback, man. That dude, he was the coach on the field. He knew all the plays. He knew how to get the ball where it needed to be. This guy, he's like his own coach out there. Right. So Russell Wilson is going to take time. Like, people just need to be a little patient because it's a new head coach. He's clearly made mistakes out there.
So what you're saying, Richie Rich, is Peyton Manning is what he was advertised to be, that specimen of cerebral magnitude, but LeBron was like the fake version of that. Is that what you're saying? Peyton Manning was everything LeBron James wasn't? Is that what you're saying? He was as advertised?
Yeah, he was as advertised, But Russell Wilson, people just need to be a little patient. It's still early in the season. You look at that division, the Chiefs, they have the hold on that division right now. But you look at the Raiders, the Chargers, those two teams, it's up in the air with those teams. So people shouldn't panic just yet. Let Russell Wilson cook, man. Let him do his thing out there. Yeah, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Give him some time to show what he can do.
Well, I want to switch gears because I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like Aaron Rodgers doesn't get enough hot seat. He doesn't get enough red seat.
He do not. Yeah, he do not. And I'm glad you brought him up. And
I would love to see Aaron Rodgers, especially with the contract extension that he got, if they can start putting him on the hot seat. Because I'm gonna go as far as saying this, and you guys may say it's an extreme position, but for a guy who wore a championship belt and a guy who supposedly, we could blame it on Stephen A. Smith. He's just the capital buck dancer, and him getting after these types of quarterbacks and basically propping them up more than what they are, making them transformers. But I didn't see more than meets the eyes, because this guy has only won one Super Bowl, and he won it off of the strength of Donald Driver. And me, Ross, and Richie Rich talked about Yak and how come yards after the catch, Yak is not a stat that officially wide receivers should be world renowned and known for, because a lot of quarterbacks are not really throwing the ball as far as they're giving you the impression of. They're not throwing 60, 70, 80 yards. They're really throwing only 30, 40. And then the receiver's the one that's going out there getting that extra 40, 50, or that running back's getting that extra 40 and 50. And Aaron Rodgers has been a benefactor of that on numerous occasions with the wideouts that he's had and the privileges that he's had. But for a guy with supposed the talent that he's had, how come he only has one Super Bowl, and how come he's not on the hot seat? And I've seen Brett Favre, who played at a higher level with the Green Bay Packers, get on their hot seat and eventually had to leave the team. Y'all tell me if that's not a double standards.
The the problem with it even came out of LeBron, right? The problem with players whom are touted for their stats is it creates fans who care nothing about anything except for the stats. On paper, it would seem as if Aaron Rodgers is playing really good football. Not right now. This year he's been marginal, but his career it would seem as if he's like the best to ever play. But he's the a better word for Aaron Rodgers is he's the safest to ever play. He rarely takes any chances, right? He and he's not really good unless he has a legit running game and a solid number one receiver. And he makes sure he rides that receiver to death. Like if he that receiver ain't open, he might dump it off. He's always really looking for one guy. Like Aaron Rodgers don't really his progression ain't really like that. He's always really looking for that one. He don't got that one guy now. Now he has to really progress and blah blah blah. He be so Aaron Rodgers is scared to get hit in the pocket.
So
He
basically, you're
all
saying because he doesn't have that number one guy, that's contributing to his marginal at best this year, right? His recession.
every time he has to play without that number one bona fide stud, he plays marginal. You know what I'm saying? And what they do, they'll be like, oh, well, he barely threw any touchdowns. Yeah, he barely threw any intermediate passes too. And Aaron Rodgers, he always roll. You know how they talk about this guy. This guy, he can't play in the pocket. Aaron Rodgers is forever rolling out of the pocket. It be people wide open if he stands in the pocket and moves up and throws the ball. He rarely does that. He be afraid to get hit, so he rolls out. And now he's looking for that one guy. If he can't find that one guy, he's dumping it down. And that's the reason why he got so much. His percentage is always high. That he barely throwing any touchdowns because he barely. I mean, he barely throwing interceptions because he barely take any chances, man. So no, to me, your numbers don't mean that much if you're not leading to any real success. You know what I'm saying? And let's be honest. At this point, Aaron Rodgers' career is it's Super Bowl or bust. Been like that for a while, and for the last 12 years, he's been the reason why they've been losing in the playoffs because he's afraid to take any chances. He's had
So what
wide.
you're saying is they should explore the options of cutting him, right?
Well, they're not going to cut somebody like Aaron Rodgers, and if it was anybody else, they'll be looking for a replacement. But they're not gonna cut Aaron Rodgers because at the end of the day, the NFL and the white man and the quarterback position is a white man position. So they're touted to get as many chances as possible. And then when they do finally get that moment, so let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers might get a championship before he leaves. I like the 12 years where he was mediocre in the playoffs never happened. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's been he's been off and on his whole career, but when he won the Super Bowl, they tried to act like he was always nice and it was just Detroit. Matthew Stafford didn't have no reason to be winless in the playoffs. He played with some top dogs at receiver. He could at least got one win. We see what Lamar Jackson does with limited resources, right? He just wasn't that good. But let's say if Aaron Rodgers wins the Super Bowl this year, they'll try to act like the last 12 years didn't happen. You know what I mean?
I think Aaron Rodgers, man, these past 2 years has been the definition of a regular season warrior.
Right.
Also he's had the favorable uh, the favorable time of playing in a division that's not that good, man. I
Not
mean,
that
you
good.
got the
Yeah.
Vikings in that division that are a mediocre team. They win some games and they lose some games. They're like an up and down team, hot and cold.
Right.
Chicago Bears are been trash.
Ben
Uh,
Stroud.
Detroit Lions always been trash. So I don't know. Aaron Rodgers, man, he seemed like because he always shows it in the postseason, especially against my team. He hate playing the Niners, man. The Niners make this man look like hot trash, for real. Because he hasn't
Right.
done anything on them cats the last 2 seasons that they met in the playoffs. He always,
Interesting you said that, Richie Rich, because you remember back in those days when me and you used to have that little rivalry with the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. And you used to hate Brett Favre because Brett Favre would
yeah,
carve up your 49ers. But it's
yeah, that's the
interesting
dude that
that
used to get in the most trouble.
Aaron Rodgers didn't keep the same mold. of carving up the 49ers. If anything, there was a regression there. And then when Colin Kaepernick came of mold and stature, the 49ers were overwhelming. I've seen games with Colin Kaepernick when he was at his best. He was straight out outplaying Aaron Rodgers. I've seen Aaron Rodgers outplayed by so many quarterbacks that they try to make it seem like he's better than. I've seen him be outplayed by Ben Roethlisberger. I've seen him be outplayed by Eli Manning. I've seen him be outplayed by Drew Brees when Drew Brees was still around. I've seen him be outplayed so many times. And what they don't talk about is Aaron Rodgers nuts up in the biggest moments. In a lot of these playoff games, especially the last 5 years, this man has been the reason why the team has lost. Either he had an interception, either he was sacked, either he made a forced play, or either he made a bad decision or a bad throw that put the other team in position to win. And it's like this guy goes under the radar. And what you keep hearing from ESPN, emotionally stupefied peons network, is they keep propping this guy up like he's still got a championship belt. When was the last time he had a championship belt? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
2011.
What have you done for me lately?
Exactly. And football's a what have you done for me lately sport. See, the reason why I'm talking about this is because not only him on the hot seat, why does the Matthew Straffords, all of these types of quarterbacks get put on the hot seat? And why do they get a pass when they are marginal at best? And then you have your Deshaun Watsons, your Lamar Jacksons, and these types of guys, even Russell Wilson, performing at higher levels, but they get this second rate. There's this unwritten rule in football where if you look like me, Ross, or Richy Rich, you always get the second view way of looking. Now it's kind of segue into what I'm talking about. One thing that I hate from wide receivers, running backs, and black players in general, they know they can't stand the disenfranchisement or the second-rate classmen they get from these quarterbacks. They know they're the reason why these quarterbacks are thriving, right? Because quarterback's supposed to be the quote-unquote most important position, but you have a lot of these positions that are saving these quarterbacks, especially the quintessential white quarterback, right? So why are these guys kissing these quarterbacks? I get mad when I see that. When the way that they talk about these quarterbacks, they talk about them like they're a godlike figure. But when they have their own black quarterbacks, they are harder on them. They ride them. And I want to know what you guys' take is on that. Why do they ride their own quarterbacks that look like them? Michael Vick, man, this guy was a phenomenon. I'm not talking about the Philadelphia, Eagles days, and he played above average in those years.
He played good with the Eagles when Andy Reid was there.
He played above average. I'll give him that. But I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Vick. This guy couldn't catch a break, and this guy was balling out of control. Him and Warwick Dunn, they're the reasons why the option in the NFL is so renowned. They revolutionized the option. They don't get credit for it. They made teams suffer. I mean, these guys were living in the NFC Championship Conference, man. These guys were dominating like nobody's business. But my thing is, why is there a second-rate classman for guys that are quote-unquote mobile quarterbacks? And the reason why I say this, preferably black quarterbacks, is because Steve Young is a mobile quarterback, but he gets credit, right? He gets the swag. Steve Young, man, he's so good because he could run out the pocket. It's so interesting that when the quarterback looks like me, it's he needs to work on his passing skills. He needs to become a better passer. That's the number one critique. But when it's a Steve Young, Steve Young, man, that dude's doing it all, man. He's passing, he's rushing. I mean, he's killing the game. Why is that double standard there? And why does guys like Aaron Rodgers don't get the pink slip? And see, this is where I have a problem with that, because if football is keeping to code that this is a what have you done for me lately, then they need to keep the code to that. And if a guy's not delivering in terms of him being a franchise player, like the way we know the term franchise player is, if he's not living up to that, it's either he's getting replaced or he's getting cut. So why is Aaron Rodgers not on the hot seat of them, the Green Bay Packers, investing into these new guys coming in into the draft when these new guys come in so he can have his replacement. Because they were so quick to replace Brett Favre. And you know why they were so quick to replace Brett Favre? Because Brett Favre was a polarizing figure. He didn't back down and saying things that he felt was wrong. He spoke against the shield. That's why they got rid of his ass.
Right.
But Aaron
Right.
Rodgers told the line
he knows.
and they kept him around.
He knows. This is why they just can't get off of Aaron Rodgers, man. Have you seen their backup? The dude they drafted from Nevada. That guy's not that good, man.
He's
I
not
mean,
ready. He
he's
ain't
not ready. They
Right.
they've featured him in games already. That dude looks like he's still years uh, where he needs to put in some years to be ready to go on the field. He looks like one of those rookies, man, that are thrown into the fire right away, and then they play terrible, man. Like they're gonna have like three interception,
I
four
hear you,
interception
Richie
type
Rich.
game.
I hear you, Richie Rich. But here's the problem with um with Brett Favre. They were so quick to go into the draft to make sure that they got his replacement in Aaron Rodgers. They really worked their butts off. The GMs, the people in the front office, they made sure that, hey, Brett Favre, you wasn't going to stay here and you wasn't going to last. And if anything, when Brett Favre was against helping, because at first he wasn't looking up to helping Aaron Rodgers, because they had their little dissension and their issues. And then when he finally did help Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers did ascend, they made sure they got rid of Brett Favre. So why aren't they returning the favor? Because Aaron Rodgers is of age. He's getting up
Well,
there in age. He's not getting any younger.
the problem with Aaron Rodgers is, even though this is a game, this is the NFL is still a political entity. They want Aaron Rodgers to lead this game at the highest note that he could leave, preferably win another Super Bowl. Think about it. When Peyton Manning won this last Super Bowl, he wasn't even a factor. Like literally, he wasn't a factor at all. He was trashed in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
But it don't matter. To the end of the day, they don't care as long as one of theirs is holding up the trophy at the end. So these last 12 years, Aaron Rodgers has lost that kind of prestige with everyone. You know what I mean? Now they got they got to sell it extra hard that Aaron Rodgers is anything, because we see him time and time again. Um, in a game where he needs to buckle up his chin strap and put his head down, he won't do it. The reason why San Francisco has so much success against him, because you know what they're doing? They're taking away his best option, and they're putting him in a predicament where he's gonna have to win some of these games with his legs. And Aaron Rodgers does not like to run at all. They're giving him lanes to run. They're daring him to run, but he's so afraid to get hit that he don't run. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only way he's gonna win against San Fran. And some of these teams, they're like, man, we know you can throw the ball. You either gonna step up in the pocket and make a play, or you're gonna run. You're not gonna roll out and do that shit and run out of bounds. You're gonna have to slide. You're gonna have to run. You have to take chances. He's so afraid to take chances. But at the end of the day, the reason why the NFL can't to let him go, because they want to at least get him to another Super Bowl at first. And I know people are like, yo, why you talk like this? Because let's be honest, the NFL is real in a sense, because niggas can't get hurt. People could die playing in the NFL, but it's fake because we have literally seen with our eyes a lot of weird shit in the NFL that don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of calls that change a whole game out of nowhere. Calls that change the whole game. What they don't realize is this: people are getting smarter and they're getting more aware. You know what I'm saying? So, like at some point, they're gonna move on from Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's not gonna be until he gets to another Super Bowl or until he wins like another one. So they're gonna start phasing him out. They fade these guys out. You know what I mean? They fade them out. And it's all up to the NFL. They feel like they can still make money off of them or not. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys get fade out early because, let's be honest, the NFL can't make no money off them. Like somebody like Kirk Cousins, believe it or not, his time is coming. They fading out Carson Wentz already. They finna fade him out too, because at the end of the day, the NFL is about money, man.
exactly. You know, at some point they, like you say, they're gonna move on from Aaron Rodgers. The problem is they just don't have somebody behind them to make them move him out quicker.
Right.
That's the thing. This is a year. This is a transitional year for the Packers. They might be able to get an opportunity to draft a quarterback that has potential that can make them move out Aaron Rodgers. Because you see how this year is going for them. It's an up and down year. They lost today to the Giants overseas. They played in London. The Giants were able to get a win off of them. They're not that good of a team this year. And you're looking at the Vikings. The Vikings are the team that's up in that division right now. I mean, the Bears and the Lions are still not that good, but it looks like a transitional year for the
You
Packers.
touched on
They're
a
not
good
gonna.
point. You touched on a good point. You touched on a good point when you talked about overseas. I want you to keep going with your point, not taking you from that point. So keep your point. But how do you feel with what the point that you're making? And then on top of that, how do you feel that the NFL is doing with the overseas aspect? Do you feel that they're doing a good job of internationalizing the sport, or do you think they should just keep it domesticated? You can continue on with your point, but I'm just adding that as the backup to
Oh,
bumper
I
your
mean
point.
that's a good point to bring up. I think that people overseas are starting to catch on to the sport a whole lot more because they now have. This surprised me. They now have football leagues that are like the American leagues over there in Europe, man, where guys are playing with helmets. They have football gear on. They have that over there. They've caught on. So the NFL, they've done their job. Is it as is it as like as the way it is in the NBA where the game of basketball is over there overseas? No, but people overseas are starting to catch on. Europe, they're getting more into the game of football. So whatever they're doing, it's starting to work. You know,
It's gonna get bigger when certain players start winning Super Bowls. Is gonna get bigger. The the overseas guys are tuning into the more mobile guys. They're not. They're tuning into the mobile. Like they're tuning into the to Lamar Jackson has a big overseas fan base. Like they motherfuckers travel from all the way from Australia to watch Lamar Jackson practice in spring camp. But when those guys start winning, because the reason why I say the mobile guys is because let's think about it. Overseas is soccer and it's more rugby. They're used to mobility. You know what I'm saying? It's not the statuesque. They're not attracted to that. You know what I'm saying? At all. And when it comes to sports, they don't have the bias, the built-in bias that America has that you got to automatically take away anything from a black QB. They just see the position as a position. And if you're being productive at the position. That's what they look at. So when these black quarterbacks start winning more Super Bowls, that's gonna push the league globally more. You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest. If you've been in the military, you realize everywhere you go, it's pretty much dominated by what black people do. It just is, man. It's dominated by what black people do. Even in the most quote unquote racist places, they're still hawking down and looking at black people, looking at us for every move, trying to be like you, trying to talk like you. So if the NFL really wants, if the NFL really wants to save, or not save because the NFL is doing just fine. But if they really want to globalize, it's really going to globalize like off the backs of people like Lamar Jackson.
at some point, I believe that NFL is going to have to. They probably already know it. They probably just like getting slow. They're like slowly walking to it, but they know eventually that's where they're gonna have to go in the next phase. They're gonna have to brand out these guys a lot
So let's
more.
let's 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 segue it then, because you guys are touching on um key points and you guys are hitting it. If there was a scale 10 out of 10, you guys are hitting it 20 out of 10. But I feel like, the same way that we talk about Lamar Jackson and how he's viewed as the villain, they've taken Patrick Mahomes and made him the hero. It's like he's the ultimate rival. In the NFL, they always do that. There's a quarterback through the genre of NFL history, even when it was white and white. because they did that with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. You had the Peyton Manning style that everyone liked, and you had the Tom Brady style that they said was a system style. So it
Right.
wasn't even just a color thing. It was more like they always, when it came to football with quarterbacks, there was always a quarterback style that they always, everyone geared towards that couldn't do no wrong. And then there's the quarterback style that everyone has something adverse to say against. Because Patrick Mahomes beat Tom Brady and they celebrated it like it was the same level of a Super Bowl. Oh, he got his revenge. No, he didn't. It's a regular season game against a guy who's out the door. It's not the same magnitude as if it's a Super Bowl. So why are you even comparing it? Why are you even putting it on the same stratosphere? Why are you even putting it on the same level? So my thing is, it's interesting how Lamar Jackson gets all of the polarization, but it's like Patrick Holmes gets everything that Lamar Jackson is supposed to get. So, what is you guys' take on that? And do you guys think that Patrick Mahomes is really what he's advertised to be?
Um, my take is they're using military mind games on the black community once again, because what they always want to do, they want to separate you, but they do it in such a sneaky way to where you think it's about sports. All this is separate light skinned people from dark skinned people. That's all they doing. Patrick Mahomes cannot help that they're overrating everything he does, and he is what he's advertised. Patrick Mahomes could play football. He can't help that they're tearing down Lamar Jackson. Man, they're doing that. They're using him just like they use Steph Curry in the NFL, just because they look at him and see some of them in him. That's all they're doing. They look at Patrick Mahomes and they see some of them in him, so they're popping him up. He can't help that, and Lamar Jackson can't help that. They don't see nothing. They don't see no whiteness in Lamar Jackson, so they tearing him down. But at the end of the day, both these men got black fathers, so they both black men. So I told myself, I gotta look at this more deeper because I can't tear down one of my brothers just because the other one of my brothers getting tore down. What I can do is call a spade. And let's be honest, they do that shit. They do that with Patrick Mahomes when it comes to other black quarterbacks. But when it comes to white QBs that are near his that they think near his caliber, they make excuses for those guys. Like Patrick Mahomes outplayed he outplayed Josh Allen last year in the playoffs. They made it sound the way they covered the games like Josh Allen had won. It's like, yeah, Josh Allen he was so great, but then he just ran out of time. Like, no, man, he lost. You know what I'm saying? Josh Allen fucking lost, man. To the point where they changed the NFL rule because Josh Allen lost last year. You know what I'm saying? So I make sure not to lean too heavy on a light skinned person because white people that gave them some type of privilege. They ain't asking for that privilege. You know what I'm saying? They just giving them that to make us jealous because we can't get that privilege. And I'm not gonna fall victim to the dark skin versus light skin shit no more.
Exactly, because in the matchup between last week when the Bills were playing the Ravens, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they had nothing but great things to say about both one another. They both have a high level of respect for each other's work ethics and stuff like that. Even Josh Allen was saying that he doesn't know why the media is always criticizing Lamar Jackson or how come his own franchise wouldn't pay him what they would pay him. It's ludicrous that he's the best quarterback in the NFL. That's what Josh Allen said, man. And,
do you feel
a
that
lot of
that's
these
going to have to be, there's going to have to be more of that? Like more people's going to have to come out and say that in order for it to be justified? Because it's always this whole thing where when someone is quote unquote the quintessential villain, there always has to be this thing where people have to play this camaraderie to galvanize around the person. It's like they did with Kobe. If you watch the Redeem Team, they had to that year. If you guys remember, it was Kobe was coming off of '07. Shaq finished up. His nice. Kobe, how does my ass taste? Kobe lost to the Phoenix Suns. He lost to the Boston Celtics. It was a very controversial time for KD. So the Black Mamba was created. It was institutionalized. It was defined as a way to just basically say, you know what? This is my way of fighting against the system. I'm just gonna come out there and I'm gonna annihilate everyone. I'm gonna fuck every motherfucker up. That's what the Black Mamba symbolized: the annihilation of an obliteration of an opponent. And that's what you're seeing with Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have, a Black Mamba, situation where he's being marginalized because of the fact that he has a teammate or whatever. But his marginalization is just off of the fact that he does not look the part of what the NFL wants, the good old boy network wants when they think of a quarterback. But this is the problem in college football when they get quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, and that's why I'm segueing it into that point, because I feel like we need to talk about that. Lamar Jackson type quarterbacks, believe it or not, are held in higher esteem and higher prestige than white quarterbacks in college football. You want to know why? Because of the rushing yards they get, the passing yards they get, and the money that they make for these colleges and these universities. So I want you guys to talk about the double standards of why in college football it's acceptable for these guys to be who they are, but once they come to the NFL, they have to be dumbed down. They have to be basically, hey, we need you to hold in. Because I feel like there's a backwards thing. Like in the NBA, when guys come to the NBA, like when Jordan came to the NBA, there wasn't this limiter. Dean Smith wasn't there to limit him. Now Jordan could just be full bore MJ. But in NFL, it's a backwards. Like you're full bore in college, but as soon as you get to the NFL, you're limited.
I'll tell you why, because the college game has always been more. As the college game, they're faster. It's always been faster than the NFL. The NFL is always playing catch up to college, but they try to make it seem like the NFL game is so much more sophisticated, but it's really not. What the NFL game has to live up to, the college game don't, because the college game has already done that. The college game was around longer than the NFL. The college game's already done the marginalizing of the black quarterback. They did that shit way before the NFL was doing it. They already did the marginalizing of the middle linebacker, the marginalizing of the center, the marginalizing of the tailback. All these positions used to be white. They already did all that shit. They done doing that. Now it's all about who can make me some money and winning games. Once the NFL was all about winning games, then it would be no problem. Lamar Jackson would be getting all the credit because nobody that came in at the time he came in, except for Patrick Mahomes, wins games the way he wins games. Nobody not at the same clip. Only him and Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else is right behind. I mean, you got Josh. I guess you could say you could put Josh Allen in there too. You could put Josh Allen in there too. But the rest of the guys who came in, they're way behind. They're way behind. You know what I'm saying? So, but the NFL ain't just about winning games. You can win all the games you want. You never solidify if you're a black quarterback. You never solidify if you're a black quarterback, man. You know what I'm saying? You just not. Like if you get injured, they automatically talk about you should probably retire or you should get cut. Like think about it. All the wins Russell Wilson has, believe it or not, there are people who already talk about Russell Wilson should be retired. You know what I'm saying? Already, like, bro, if Russell Wilson was white, they would not be doing that. They'll be talking about how horrible the coaching staff is, but they not. They laying it at his feet.
That's why I mentioned Aaron Rodgers the way that I did, because you gave me a segue into another topic and talking about that. But yeah, go ahead, continue on with your point.
You know what I'm saying? They're just laying it at his feet because that's the NFL way. It's pretty much the black dude always got to be the villain. So, and the reason why a lot of black people have resentment towards Patrick Mahomes, and we got to stop responding to racism in that way, because that's what they want. Because we see that there's no parity between him and Lamar Jackson, but that's not, he don't do that. They do that, right? But Patrick Mahomes don't get the same type of treatment that a white QB get either, because in that Super Bowl against Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes is running for his life every play. They ain't make an excuse. They ain't make an excuse for him saying, "Oh, he ain't had an offensive line. Oh, niggas quit on him. Niggas quit on him, man. He was the only one that was playing. They quit. They lay down. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't say that. They was like, Patrick Mahomes got to get better, man.
Yeah, he showed up. He showed up. He wanted to. He showed up. He wanted to show that he could be on the same stage with Tom Brady. but everybody else
He could
quit on him in that game.
they quit. He competed, but that's only because the reason why they tore his ass down because he was playing against Tom Brady. So they didn't want to take nothing from Tom Brady's victory. They want to say, oh, that this nigga choked. You know what I'm saying? Blase, blase. And I say that to say they don't do that with white QBs. With white QBs, if a motherfucker drop the ball, they gonna be, oh, he should have never dropped that. Blah, blah, blah. They're gonna talk about that drop because they don't want that white QB to look bad. When in reality,
Yeah.
motherfuckers drop passes for black quarterbacks all the time. Lamar Jackson, they had a 8-minute long video of motherfuckers dropping wide open passes, man. This dude had to, this is what he got to work with, and he still wins.
Yep.
But
Yep.
they'll make it seem like his accuracy is bad. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. So
Right.
Richie Rich, what's your take? What's your take on the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. And when you look at the college game, like you said, they've had their transitional period with how to deal with the black quarterback, the quarterback, the dual threat quarterback. So they've already ingrained that into their system and how they it functions into their system, and people are used to it.
Because
Plus, I think
you see it with VTech, you see it with Texas, you see it with Alabama, you see it with Florida. We watch these college games,
exactly
man.
most
These
of
black
these
quarterbacks are flourishing
most
in
of
these
these
systems.
recruiters are looking for those type of quarterbacks typically. When you're looking at the college game, the NFL they're behind, but eventually they're gonna catch on. It's just that the demographics, man, the viewers right now, they don't want to see that right now. But at some point, it's like
That's
uh,
true.
But
That's another thing.
isn't that backwards though, Richie Rich and Ross? Like, isn't that they use
It's
there's a
the
back.
lot
college
there's a
football
lot more money.
but they use the college football as like a stepping stone for the NFL. So you guys are telling me, based on what I'm getting from you guys, college football is more modernized. They're way ahead of the game than the NFL. Is that what you guys telling me? That's what I'm getting from this.
in
It's
terms of in
yeah,
terms of being more diverse
yeah,
with their quarterbacks,
yeah.
with
But
their playmakers.
but here's the thing, and Richie Rich makes a great point. Um, a lot of guys, people gotta realize there's different demographics that watch football, but the majority is white. Well, people gotta realize white people don't just watch it to be entertained; they watch it to feel empowered. That's the reason why you notice very few white people watch movies with all black people in, with all black people in it. And if there's a white person in it, the white person got to be the savior of the movie, or else they're not even gonna watch it. So I say that to say that shit translates over to the sport. In the NFL, the same white person who watches college football, his mind shifts when he watches the NFL. He's expected to see, he's expected to see hit if it ain't but one white person on the team to get all the credit, they get all the praise. They're not ready to see a black quarterback get that type of credit and praise. You know what I'm saying? They're not
Exactly.
ready to see a black quarterback be in a leadership position as something that's regular and being praised for it. You know what I mean? Why
So
you think
no,
why
go ahead,
why
go
why,
ahead.
why you think the standards all of a sudden switch soon as a guy get to college as soon as a guy gets to the NFL? Lamar Jackson was doing the same shit in college. Matter of fact, the offense he was running in Louisville was way more sophisticated than the offense he runs right now in the Ravens, way more. And
Facts,
all
facts.
the passes was downfield, hard ass passes he was asking this kid to make. 3,000 passing, 1,000 rushing, and leading the league in touchdowns. He's been doing that shit in college. But
So what you so what y'all
all of a
saying
sudden when
is
he get hold up, all of a sudden when he get into the NFL, that's bad football, and he can't throw the ball all of a sudden. How I lead the whole FBS? There's a lot of quarterbacks in the FBS. How I lead everybody in passing touchdowns, but I can't throw the football. You know what I'm saying? It should don't make sense.
so what y'all saying is they forced the black multifaceted quarterbacks to dumb their skills down to then make it what a more parity so that the white only passing passer type quarterbacks can thrive in the NFL. So
Exactly, but
they
Exactly.
they can't.
regress them so that it can put them on the same level again.
what they do is the quarterbacks who they can convince to change their game, because that's all they've been doing at the Ravens is trying to convince Lamar Jackson to change his game. And you could tell because they keep saying, "Man, Lamar Jackson, oh, he's gonna do it his way, and it don't matter how it looks, long as like they're trying to make it." So what they do is they know you're not gonna change the game, so then they create a narrative that anything you do that white players can't do is somehow discounted. So let's say if you throw for 250, but you run for 100, they'll say some shit like, "Yeah, they'll say some shit like, yeah, he only threw for 250. If he threw for 300, then he'll be elite." They'll say shit like, yeah, he only threw for 250 because he could run. His running sets up the pass. But all
And his
quarterbacks run.
350, is what I call multi-purpose yards. It's not just single purpose yards because there's passing yards and then there's rushing yards. And rushing, and we know in football, even the football one-on-one, rushing clogs up possession, it clogs up time, and it puts you in the net gain because the more you're rushing the football, the more the ball is in your possession and it's in your hands. So his
Right.
multi-purpose yards actually mean more from a net gain than just passing the fucking football.
It does because you control the game, but that's the point I'm trying to get at. They know that, but they'll make it seem like because it's coming from the same person, somehow it's bad. Most quarterbacks get all their passing yards off play action, so that's the run setting up the pass. But
Yep.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing when Aaron Rodgers throws for 350 all off play action. There's no wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But if Lamar Jackson throws 350 off the give read off the option, and he have 100 yards throwing, they'll be like, "Oh well, that's the only reason why he got those yards because the run was setting up the pass." See, there's no parity in the narrative that they set up. It's basically whatever a black quarterback does that a white quarterback can't really do, they're gonna discredit it. And
Exactly.
that
So I get.
here's my example. Josh Allen do some of the same shit Lamar Jackson does. They rarely
Mhm.
discredit anything that he does because he's white.
So this is my last topic of discussion that I want you guys to harp on because I feel like it connects with this because we segued it beautifully
I
with
just to
the
let y'all
rush
know
yards.
the Ravens game finna kick off pretty soon.
Yep, and that's why I'm getting into this last point. Multi-purpose yards. Why is the running back position? And Richie Rich, I'm gonna have you start off, and then Ross, you could close us out. Why has the running back position become prehistoric? It became like a dinosaur thing where it no longer holds the same staying power that it once did. Kind of like the way the center position is with the NBA. I want you guys to let me know why did running backs overnight over the last 10 years became basically dime a dozen.
It's
Um,
easy. It's a litany of things.
yeah,
It's that position has evolved over the years, especially once a back like Marshall Falk came into the league, where he brought in that true all purpose. He could do he's a dual threat. He could run and he can catch out the backfield and pick up massive yards as well. These they don't make them like they used to. And plus these backs now, man, if you giving them 30 carries a game, 40 carries a game, these guys don't hold up for 10 years. They don't hold up like the Curtis Martins, the Emmett Smiths, the even Barry only played 9 seasons, but he held up. He didn't have any major injuries.
right.
Those type of backs that could play 10 seasons, and LaDainian Tomlinson, you could throw him in there. A guy
Come on,
getting a
man. How
whole
you
bunch.
gonna mention my Ricky Williams, huh?
I'm gonna get to Ricky at some
Okay.
point, but Ricky was getting banged up. That's why I didn't mention
Well,
him.
we know why
He
he was
didn't. He
getting
didn't
banged
play.
up.
Yeah,
They
they
did
was
they
giving
did
this
him.
man.
He was the running back version of Lamar Jackson. That's what he
Yeah,
was.
they was giving this man 30, 40 carries a game, and they ran him into the ground. This is why these backs have that type of way of running the ball has kind of died a little bit. And NFL franchises they've kind of ganked these guys. They don't pay these running backs like they used to nowadays because they know these guys aren't going to last in the NFL. You got a back in the NFL now that could be that potential kind of back in Saquon Barkley on the Giants because he's carrying he's carrying that team
I was
so
gonna say
far.
because he came back. He
Yeah,
revolutionized the running back position back to its supreme standards again.
exactly. And that's a dude they like to hand him the ball 20, 30 times a game. He tore his ACL, but he came back and he's looking like himself again. But when it's a litany of things, man, it's because those backs, that way of running the football gets your running back hurt a whole lot faster. These guys are not like they used to be. They don't hold up.
So
Those
what you're
guys,
so what you're saying is it doesn't pay to be a running back anymore. I mean, don't we think that
it
running back?
doesn't pay. It
Well,
doesn't pay. These guys don't get paid, especially off inflation. These guys don't get paid like they used to.
now they don't, but think about it. That was all planned and by the NFL. See, the running backs and the receivers used to be considered the best players, no matter what. The running backs and the receivers, sometimes defensive players were considered the best players. The NFL wanted to move a narrative to where the quarterback was never considered the best player ever when we was little. Even when they was winning MVPs, motherfucker be like, yeah, but shit, okay, Joe Montana could do this, but he ain't better at football than Jerry Rice. It was a difference. You was a good quarterback, but you weren't the best player on the team. But they wanted to push that quarterback is the most important,
Ross
the
is
best.
right. Ross is right. There was only one quarterback in the late '80s, early '90s that was getting credit with those black players, and that was Dan Marino because Dan Marino was doing everything for the Dolphins. Everything.
You know what I'm saying? So they wanted to move that narrative over to the quarter because the quarterback position was dominated by all white men. How could they be the superheroes of this sport? They had to switch the narrative to over and make the football a passing league. And by making the football a passing league, that means the quarterbacks were held to more higher regard, whether they deserved it or not. You know what I'm saying? Higher regard than actual defensive ends that change. That defensive end can change the whole game. Um, a good running back a good receiver who doesn't go down as soon as he gets touched could change the whole course of the game. But they had to switch it over to where these guys are now afterthoughts and the quarterback is everything. So if the quarterback threw a 3 yard slant, like you like to bring up all the time, he knows, and it goes for 80, they used to give that running they used to give that receiver the credit. Like,
Yeah,
man, but now it's more so. Look at the decision he made.
yeah.
Look, look, do you see the decision this quarterback made? And
Hmm.
but this is where they losing everybody because it was only they only did that to get the shine on the white QBs, but now it's
Yeah,
black QBs. So this is how they're losing, and this is why they're losing the media because you could blatantly tell they cover black QBs and white QBs differently by the
yeah.
way they
Because when I
describe how they
played
play.
when I played quarterback, and Richie Rich knew this. I felt like I played it, and I'm not disrespecting NFL quarterbacks. I feel like only the black mobile quarterbacks play the game on a higher level than I did. I mean, the elite ones like the Lamar Jacksons. But when I played the game with a mindset. Richie Rich knows this. Richie Rich was my favorite receiver. He was my dominating receiver. But I had three options. If I couldn't get Richie Rich, I had a halfback that I could pass the ball to, get the rush yards, or I could just have him run play action fakes, and then I could just hit him for 7 yards, 8 yard gains when I know they doubling Richie Rich up. And then I always had a tight end. Me, that's the type of quarterback I was. I always had to have a tight end. I always had to have a multi-purpose running back that I can get the ball to, and then I had my go-to guy, Richie Rich. When it was all said and done, game on the line, and I got to bomb that thing. I need a receiver that can go out there and murk the
Right,
DBs and the quarterback. And then if that breaks down, because I'm mobile, I'm running. I'm getting you 8, 9, 10, 15 yards. I'm juking the defense and stuff like that. But my running didn't happen until I knew that I couldn't get the guys that I was looking for. And
right.
Richie Rich knows I ran drills with him. I made him become such a hellified receiver. I remember we used to inside our house, we used to have a fenced house. He could tell you this. And I used to purposely throw the ball like it's going out of bounds. And I'll have him like try to catch the ball. But this is how, because you guys know my mind, Ross. You know my mind. You know I can be very sinister. Richie Rich knows the sinister mind. I would throw the ball in the weights, and we would have like these spikes on the grass. And I'd be like, look, if you don't want to cut yourself, you don't want to bleed, you got to catch that ball. and you got to find a way to get out of bounds. So I was teaching him how to catch the ball out of bounds, and the reason why I was teaching him how to catch it in those ways is because I'm gonna get sacked. I'm not gonna be able to throw the perfect pass. I need to be able to throw the ball in a way to where it's gonna make sense to where you could catch it any kind of way. And that's what happened. He was able to catch the ball any kind of way because down here, man, we got a lot of guys on the defensive and they mobile. Within 3-4 seconds, they on your ass. So if I can't break free, I'm throwing it however I can throw it. I'm always gonna make sure that I throw it in a way to where it gets away from the DB or the cornerback and it's in his hands so that he could catch it. And him, because his hands were so fluid, he could catch with one hand. Richy Rich could jump. He could go up there. He had vert. He could do whatever. I know he's going to get the ball. But what I did was I made sure I had 3 or 4 options. What I'm seeing from a lot of quarterbacks, especially white quarterbacks, they, like you said with Aaron Rodgers, and it's not just Aaron Rodgers that's like that. They all have that one option. And if they can't get the ball to the one option, it's one and done for them. So to me, why are you paying this guy that much money if he didn't enhance his abilities and his skill set to have those options available to him? Because I developed those skill sets and those abilities on my end to have those options to where I could perform at that level. So my question is, why isn't someone like that doing what they're supposed to perform at the level that they're supposed to? But you have a lot of black quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, which is what I was on steroids, that does that. He has the 3, 4, 5 options. And then on top of that, if it breaks down, then he's running. Because Lamar, he plays the game the way I was playing it. And Lamar don't just run. He exercises his options first. And if his options are not there, because that's what you're supposed to do. Quarterback position, you're supposed to primarily pass, and you're supposed to primarily manage and control the offense. If his passing ability is limited, then that's when he takes off. But he's not just taking off. And that's why I said he's the completed version of Michael Vick, because Michael Vick just took off for the sake of taking off. If Michael Vick felt, hey, the pass ain't there, I'm gone. Lamar doesn't play that way. Lamar's like, I have to wait until it's really not there. And then I'm going to use my legs to do what I got to do.
Right.
But that's what you're seeing from those guys. They actually took the time out in the AAUs. They took the time out to develop themselves in high school, college, because the unwritten rule and what's not said is when you're a black quarterback and you're mobile, Richy Rich knows this. Remember every time we would like flip the coin or whatever, Ross, you know this in Chicago, and we flip the coin, you that black dude that played quarterback, everybody always questioning you. You sure you could throw the ball? You know how many times people used to say that to me? And Richy Rich would be like, man, listen, man, this dude y'all got throwing the ball, man, put my brother in that, man. These guys don't know what they're doing or whatever, right? You always got to go in there and prove yourself. But then when it's somebody that they quote unquote think can throw the ball or pass, and then you see that guy getting picked off, he's not throwing the ball the way he's supposed to. He's throwing short passes. Because that's what I used to see with a lot of the white quarterbacks growing up. They would throw the ball very short. They wouldn't throw it in a way to where it would go in the hands. Because I believe you're supposed to throw the ball away from the defense and give your wide receiver every advantage to catch the ball, regardless what route they're running. And if you don't know how to throw the ball that way, you should be practicing that route. What happened to that, man? Where the wide receiver, it would just be you. Because that's what me and Richy Rich would do. We'd run 100 plays over and over and over again, where I would throw the ball to him and he would run the route, and we would do this to perfection so that I could make sure I passed the ball in a way to where he could catch it. But they don't do that no more. Now it's like, oh, well, you as the wide receiver, you're going to have to like wrestle with the DB, or you're going to have to like try to figure out how to catch the ball. That's why I say wide receivers in the NFL. I'm glad you made that point, that auxiliary point where you said wide receivers and running backs and them are the best players. I do believe that, because I've given Richy Rich so much credit for me throwing a 30-yard pass and then he goes and makes it 80 yards because he gets the other 50, because he had to do things where, first and foremost, you're in the line of position where you can get cracked back. You're in the line of position where you can get hit. Then on top of that, you got to juke people. Then on top of that, you got to burn people. You got to have those afterburner legs to burn people and then get extra yards. You have to be a hellified athlete to do that.
Yep. Yeah, man. So the late game for the kickoff, said this was a hell of our lives, man.
It was. So I'm glad you guys touched on that point. Next week we'll pick up from there in week 6. But I think the biggest thing, and I hope people can take away from this live, is there is a double standard. And football, the reason why to me it's not the same product that it used to be is because you have guys coming into your teams, and they're not expected to basically work. You know how there was this thing in the last 10 years with quarterback position, any position at that. They used to have guys work, man. You'd have your second string be almost as good as the first string, if not as good. And they would have to work and grind against each other to determine what position. It's like now it's automatic. Guys that are starters, they kind of just, and that's why their teams are not developing. Even in the black quarterback position, because you got, unless guys are playing at a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson level, you have a lot of Cam Newton type quarterbacks too. And that's something we're going to talk about next week. Like a lot of guys feel their jobs are safe. So because they're safe and they're not being challenged, they're not challenging themselves to greatness. And that's why you see the product of the NFL to me has dropped. When I'm watching football these days, I don't see the same level, man. You remember back in those days, you used to have Jerry Rice, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin. All these guys used to gear up for each other. Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith wanted to outdo Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders wanted to outdo this guy, that guy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
guys were gearing up. Marshall Falk wanted to outdo LaDainian Tomlinson. You don't see that no more, man.
I'm
It's
trying
like
to
the
tell, I'm
stock
trying
has
to tell you.
dropped.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you when the NFL made the whole fucking league just about the quarterback position, it knocked down people's motivations. Because back then, even though quarterbacks was winning MVPs back then, it wasn't like that was all they talked about. They talked about everybody that was great back then. Now they just totally focus on the quarterbacks.
And
If
the
you notice
Crazy.
it,
MVP
they
was more distributed. They were giving it to other positions more often.
right, right. They only talk about just the quarterback now. And let's be honest, man, these guys are human beings too. They human beings too, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there'll be a lot of more and more. And another thing, they changed the rules, so a lot of defensive players can't even really shine like they used to.
Exactly.
But now you can't really even do nothing like you used to be able to do, man. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
because they protect the quarterback. There used to be, if you're a defensive player, God forbid you crack back a quarterback, you probably your career is in jeopardy if you do that. Back in those days, man, you a quarterback. Listen, and nobody told you to be right there. That's why the quarterback position back in the days used to be a pressurized position, and it had a standard to it, and you had to be really good because you had to deal with the fact that you got guys like Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, they coming for your head.
Right.
Now it's like if a guy runs in full burst motion to the quarterback, even if they basically telling the guy you're supposed to stop as you're going full burst. And what he
Exactly.
can't, but he can't control the stoppage. Like
Can't
he's
Right.
going
can't
full
control
force
his
at the quarterback.
momentum.
He can't control his momentum. Thank you for for correcting me on that. So if he can't control his momentum, does he get a 6-7 game suspension? That's another thing we're gonna talk about next week. The double standards that these guys have to deal with. And I just don't like it, man. And I feel like the product has dropped. For it to be the best sport, for it to be the best pastime sport, a lot of things need to come back. And all of this stuff where people can't celebrate, with touchdowns and all of that, man, that was part of the sport. That's what made the sport the
You
sport.
remember Chad Ochocinco
Yeah,
when they were acting a fool
Yeah.
and
yeah,
celebrating all them crazy touchdowns? Like
yeah.
they were trying to take the fun out of the game, man. I didn't appreciate that. Like they
But I
trying to
appreciate,
police the game.
yeah, but I appreciate you guys, man. And I know the game done started. But yeah, we'll pick up. We're gonna start this one earlier next week, and we'll pick up from there. But we have a lot that we can focus on, and then we'll focus on week 6 on which teams actually you guys feel are gonna be dark horses, and which teams you guys actually feel like. To me, Green Bay Packers. That I'm sorry to say this, and I will say this again. They need to visit cutting Aaron Rodgers. I know this is an extreme position, but the guy's overrated to me, man. I'm tired of hearing about this guy. They need to cut
Yeah.
him. They need to cut him. But that's all I have to say, man. Y'all have a great Sunday. Tomorrow, y'all catch us going live. We'll be talking about Redeem Team. With myself, he knows Richie Rich and Tom Ross. Because the Redeem Team documentary came out, and I was surprised that LeBron James did that. But LeBron James, even in the beginning, the way he was looking at Kobe, like Kobe was his savior, I was surprised that LeBron James had a honest truth serum moment, and he admitted there was a lot of stuff. I almost didn't want to watch that documentary because I didn't think they were going to do it the right way. But I think because Dwayne Wade was one of the executive producers, and we know Dwayne Wade's always been honest about where Kobe belongs, I think that has something to do with it. But man, they gave Kobe Bryant the credit that he fully fucking deserves in saving that team and redeeming that team. And that's something we got to talk about tomorrow, because they looked at Kobe like he was the savior. He was that dude.
He was.
He was.
Yeah, he was. They know that shit. Those niggas, they was getting their ass for every year.
Because when LeBron said, man, when Kobe ran into Paul's fucking chest, he was like, oh, I knew we was going to beat Spain. There was no way we are going to lose. And then LeBron had an honest moment. LeBron doesn't have too many of these belly up moments. He used to have it back in the day when, he lost to the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. And, he went into his little frozen moment when the media guy asked him a question. He said, y'all got to go back to y'all families and y'all miserable families, but I'm going to live my life. I haven't seen too many of these belly up moments as of late because he's been too telegraphed. But he had his belly up moment. He said, man, there was a time in the game against Spain, because Spain was mashing him up with them threes. I remember that game. Me and Richie was watching that game. Ross, I know you was watching that game. Spain was mashing him up with threes. And LeBron said, man, there was a time in the game where I was stressed out, where I was like, man, they keep fucking coming. And then Kobe told the guys, all of the guys, quiet down, calm down. I know a lot of you guys are afraid in these moments, but that's why I'm here. And then Kobe looked at Wade and he said, yo, you going to be my supplementary closer. A lot of people don't know that, man. He grabbed Wade by it. He's like, yo, it's going to be us against them. We got to close this thing out. And that's what was happening. It was Kobe and Wade that was closing these motherfuckers out, man. I remember that shit. All LeBron was doing, he was the bystander. And then I remember Kobe hit a shot, and then he did that thing with his mouth to silence the crowd. And we knew from that point on the game was over at that point. Man, it was just Kobe was hitting. He was hitting daggers after daggers. I watched that documentary on Friday last week. Last week, man, and man, it just brought me to tears, because I remember what this guy meant for the game of basketball. That's why I get so mad when this guy gets disrespected, because I was just watching those daggers. Those daggers was hitting my soul, man. It was just like making me catch goosebumps. I'm like, damn, man, basketball is not played at this level no more. This guy was just hitting shots after shots after shots, and you could tell Spain's fire. It was just losing its steam. It was losing it slowly but surely, to the point where they knew at that point, okay, we're gonna have to give this thing to USA, man. Kobe just doesn't get enough credit, man. But that 2008 not only saved USA, but it made a lot of those basketball players the rest of their careers what it became, because of the time that they spent with Kobe Bryant. And that's why I say, when I say Kobe made LeBron, Kobe made Wade, Kobe made Carmelo, and all those guys, I have the right to say that. Because when all of those guys were going to go party, Kobe was the only one. They were looking at Kobe like, this is like 2, 3 in the morning. What is this guy doing? He went downstairs to hit the weight room. And then right after that, all of those guys started following that. So it was very clear who was the leader. It was very clear.
They said their time was on Kobe's time.
Yep. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, man. Kobe's going to get his props. He's going to get his adulation. And then from there, we got some boxing stuff we're going to cover the rest of this week. And then we just going to go from there. And then y'all lay around for this live Wednesday. We're going to be doing a fantasy football, where we're going to start giving fantasy football fans love. And the reason why I feel like fantasy football is the only thing that's keeping football alive is because fantasy football calls it based on exactly what it is. This is what this guy got for the week. This is how many yards he got. They basically keep it off of the strength of who's truly doing what they're supposed to, as opposed to namesake. And we're gonna delve into that. So y'all have a great Sunday. Y'all take care. Y'all enjoy the game. Be easy. Peace.
Peace.